Patrice says that her artistic talents were first discovered at the age of 3 when she was found creating a mural on the dining room wall of her family's kitchen with a pastry brush and a can of Crisco. That was her first medium, Crisco painting. Although the work itself was never fully appreciated by her parents, her interest in art began right there. They quickly gave her more appropriate supplies, and she says, "My passion for art grew, and I earned a BFA in studio art from the University of Texas at Austin, where I now live with my husband, son, good dog Archer, and 1 can of Crisco still, but that's for cooking only," she says. Her clients include Alfred A. Knopf, G.P. Putnam, Sons, Houghton Mifflin, Harcourt, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, Scholastic, Ideals Children's Books, National Geographic, Ladybug Magazine, Clubhouse Junior Magazine, Highlights, High Five, and Hazelden Educational Publishing. And you can also see her work at the Directory of Illustration. I will put the Directory of Illustration, her page link up for that after the program, and also her Amazon book page where you can see all her wonderful books that she has illustrated and made very special with her illustrations, but they include The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig, In Grandma's Attic, Little Bitty Friends, Year of the Baby, Shut a Crumb's Mine, for which Patty won the SCBWI Crystal Kite Award. Just want to show you these books real fast. I'm sorry, I have to show these off. Bringing the Outside In by Mary McKenna Siddals, and Sweet Moon Baby by Karen Henry Clark, Layla, Queen of Hearts. She's got 2 whole full pages of books on Amazon, on her Amazon page, and I'll send you the link out to that. Uh-Oh by Shudacrum, Rosie Sprout's Time to Shine, I Like Old Clothes by Mary Ann Hoberman. It's always fun to hang out with Patty. She's a friend of mine. She's a member of the Austin SCBWI chapter, and you're a girl illustrator too, aren't you, Patty, part of the girl illustrators? We are thrilled and tickled and privileged to have Patty with us today. Patty, thanks for being here. We're all really excited. We've been looking so forward to this.
Thanks, Mark. It was a lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. And I'm so honored to be a part of this series on drawing for children. Thanks so much for having me. And today we're focusing on how a gesture can help tell the story. First, I'd like to share a little about my process. And feel free to ask any questions. Just put them up there for Mark, and he'll fire them off to me. And then we'll move on to looking at your work. And I took a peek earlier, and it's just so great to see you guys really rose to the challenge. So thanks for that. That's going to be fun. In my process, I'm going to be talking about illustrations from this book, I Like Old Clothes by Mary Ann Hoberman. So I just wanted to give you a little peek at that. And then also this book, which comes out next month, called Did You Hear What I Heard? Reference in there. This is poems for first graders, really. And then also from Quiet Please, Owen McPhee. And this comes out in August. And it's with Trudy Ludwig, who wrote The Invisible Boy. So it was fun to collaborate with her again. So I'm going to be referencing those. So I just want
Great. Okay.
The first thing I see when I enter my studio in the morning to get busy working, it's Bill Murray. And when I see his silly mug, you know, I just start my day with a smile. And that's a good way to start work. And the quote here on his photo says, it says, "Someone told me secrets early on about living. You can do the very best you can when you're very, very relaxed." And I realized the more fun I had, the better I did. And I like that quote. And it reminds me to trust in myself when I'm working and just play and let go and just draw from the heart. So that's what he's doing on my office wall. And that's how I start each day. This, because, you know, there's so many stresses with deadlines and, you know, working with all the different people and wanting to put your best foot forward. So that just kind of brings me back to getting centered, and I can get down to business. When I first start a book, I start with reading the manuscript over and over and over, and I just take this opportunity to try to get to know the characters. And so this is a gesture sketch from the book I Like Old Clothes. And it's about a little girl who just loves old clothes. She loves hand-me-downs. She loves the way they feel, their textures, how comfortable they are. And she also likes thinking about the history of like who had the clothes before her. So I was just want to get to know her. So instead of just saying, okay, here's page 1, what is she doing on page 1? I don't look at that. I just think about, well, how would she spend her day? And I thought, well, maybe she liked to, drive by a little used clothing shop since she likes old clothes. So I put her on a little scooter here, and she's got a little patch on her knee and a little patch on her elbow because they're old clothes. And then I thought about all the textures and fabrics that she likes. And I thought, well, maybe it'd be kind of fun to make her wheels little buttons. So I did that. And then I also thought, well, you know what? She needs a friend. She needs someone to cut around with. So I gave her a little brother. And he's in a little cart here that she drags behind, and there's old clothes in the cart, like if she has any finds. And so this is how I started a rough sketch. And this is in Painter. It's where I scan my work into my computer, and I bring it into Painter. And I know Diane had a question about my scanning, and I just scan in at 300 DPI and in grayscale because this isn't finished art that I'm scanning, and it's just gesture drawings and quick sketches. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just kind of gives me a little map to start with. And so then I work in layers, and I use multiply so that it's like working on tracing paper, and you can just kind of build up a sketch. And so here's the next thing I added were lines, kind of to beef up that little sketch. And then I added a little grayscale shading, and then a little more. And then some, I thought, well, maybe with my lines, some of the lines would look like sewing threads, like seams. That might be kind of fun. So that's what those little dotted lines are about. And then, I added some white highlights and then a little more highlights. And another thing I had a question about from somebody, I think Diane also, was the rake, a little about my process in Painter, and she was interested in this rake, and I'll show you that tool. And it like does this, and I use a default setting. I don't do anything special with any of these tools. They're just the defaults in Painter, and I just have about a handful of them, and I just get to know them and just kind of do what I want with them. And here's what I like about Painter. If you can see, it shows like if it's an oil pastel, it shows a little picture of an oil pastel, and in Photoshop, it doesn't have those little visuals, and I really like little visuals. Visual person, so that helps me. So I just kind of got used to that in Painter, and so that's what I do. And so I haven't made any of my own brushes in Painter. They're just all the default settings, and then I just play with them and use them how I like. So it's no big secret or nothing special. It's just how I like to work. This is another sketch from the book where I was just getting to know the characters. Now that she's found her little brother, I just drew them, their little faces, and then a horizon line right here where they're just kind of tucked behind a line. And I thought, well, let's put a little stitching on that. And then I thought, well, what if that's a pocket? So then I made them a little smaller, and then I made a little drawing there of a pocket that they could be in. And then added some shading, a little more to the pocket, some highlights with the white. And then, so it just is that's not part of the book or part of the story. It's just part of me getting to know the characters. And so that's how quick little gesture drawings. And I mean, this didn't take but a few minutes to play with that, just very quick. And that's how I get to know the characters and see what they're about. And so the solutions for me come with doing the work. Just get busy with the work, and then slowly she just kind of reveals herself. And what was fun about this, the sketches did end up in the book. That was terrific. And what happened was she became the title page, this little drawing right here. And I used, you can see right along the horizon line, I actually got a sewing machine, and I stitched on paper and scanned that into the computer. So some of the horizon line here is sewing, and this little box I scanned in stitch box, and they ended up putting their logo right in there. So that's how just gesture drawings can end up in a book and add to the story, even though there wasn't a page that talks about her on a scooter or anything, or even having a little brother. He's not even mentioned. It's just, I just imagined it. So, and then on the little pocket, that became the title of the dedication page. So that turned out kind of fun too. That's the magic that happens sometimes. When you just play and let yourself relax, you really get to add more to the books. So that's another reason that it's really fun to just sketch away at the beginning. You never know what you're going to find. And this is a little page of gesture drawings. So I was waiting in a waiting room. So I was just sketching away. And the book that I was working on here was little children playing outside and in the weather. So this was from bringing the outside in. So I was just getting to know these kids and putting little coats on them and raincoats, and they were jumping in mud puddles, and see how little kids would play. And I actually saw this little boy on a walk. He was with his little preschool class, and he had on shorts and a white shirt and tie. And I thought,
did you sketch him on the spot, or did you sketch him from memory when you got home?
I had walked my dog through the park that morning, and that's when I saw him. And so later in the waiting room, I was remembering him, so I just put him in here. I haven't used him in anything yet, but I sure think he was a sweet character.
Oh yeah.
The fun thing about this, though, the little puddle jumper did end up in the book. So again, wow. We have examples where just the little rough sketches. Sometimes they're just yeah.
Gee.
And so just take your time and find just the right sketch, and keep it loose and play so that you're not so invested in the one drawing. Oh, I put so much work into this one. I know it's not quite right, but I don't want to have that a waste of time. Well, it wasn't a waste of time. You learned a lot. But if you have all kinds of sketches, and you might have like 3 or 4 that you can choose from that are just right. And, pick one and then save the others and use them later for inspiration or maybe other stories that might come up. So
wonderful.
Yeah. And then this is a little black and white, and it's a couple of teenagers, and they're just standing, but you can see that she's leaning. She's not just straight up and down. She's leaning forward. Their eye contact, so they're engaged in conversation. And then like little toddlers, they just, they have no sense of their space or your space. They just invade your space all the time. So
they do, don't they?
Almost stand on your feet and grabbing the legs. So she's interested in with the cookies, but she's also a little bit, wary. So she's hanging on to her sister's leg there. So, they're all 3 just standing, but just with a few little gestures, leaning in, eye contact and leaning, feet separated, and just things like the droopy socks, they inform you about who that character is.
Yeah.
Little tween, and she's again just standing, but because her leg is rounded here, and she's on her little tippy toe here, and her flip flop is flopped down, and bracelets kind of jangling, talking on her, texting or whatever on her phone, and how her clothing falls, that's all part of the gesture. And she looks like she's gonna, move any minute and start walking, or, just you catch just a little blip in time is what gestures are for. And this one is a book that came out this year, and it's a relationship between this little girl and her dog, and they just really love each other, and they hate to be separated when she goes to school. So I wanted to show on the cover so you'd know right away that they have a connection. So this was, the eye contact, and he's leaning way in, and his tail's just a wagging away. And they're holding hands and touching their little forehead. So you can tell that they're close. And that way, right when you pick up the book, it's going to be about those 2. And then here's a little, when he comes to school and he gets in the library and he has to leave. So they're tugging on him to leave, and he's not happy about it. So he's being pulled, but still leaning into her. And she's giving a little pat on the head and a kiss goodbye. And she's leaning, though she's just sitting, you can tell that she's all involved here. and then the dog still tries to hide. So, I don't even show but his back end, but that gesture tells a lot about how he's feeling. And not real happy about having to get out of the school. And so they're all, leaning down to pick him up, and the librarian is surprised. And
Patty, how did you come up with some of these other gestures from this group scene? Are these from your sketchbook too, or would you get somebody to pose for you if you were?
Oh, no. This just is from my imagination.
Inventing your gestures in some cases.
And the book informed me too. Like it mentions that the parents and the librarian and the teacher and the kids were all gathered around. So I knew I was going to have a crowd in the scene.
Diane says, our final illustrations, 300 DPI and actual scale. Okay, yes. So the finals you turn into the editor. Okay. And then she says she loves your observations of children.
Oh, thank you.
They're really enjoying your sketches and your drawings, Patty.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being so patient, everybody.
The little girl in the wheelchair is such a, you feel her gesture so much in that position. It feels so.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it. I knew her legs wouldn't be very active, but I never even thought about that interfering with the gesture. I just got her busy anyway. So,
it's
and
great.
that turned out. Yeah. And thank you. And then this is from Little Kids on the Beach, and again, it's how they interact with each other. The older kid has all the plans, and the younger kid is just more than happy to join. And then I also had to show that they weren't totally alone on the beach, so there wasn't really any danger for them. So in the upper corner here, I just tucked the mothers behind an umbrella, so you can see their legs. So but the kids are feeling pretty independent, even though the mothers are right behind them. So that's how I showed. That's how I tried to get that point across. And then over here on this one, I have the little boy, again, is just invading the older child's space, just crowding in. He's a little nervous about the crab, and she's handling everything. So he just kind of tucks in behind the bucket and tucks her behind her. So, and you don't have to show every limb all the time. Like, her back leg is missing, but it's convincing enough a pose that it's there. You don't even say, hey, where's her other foot? So that's
exactly. Yeah.
In a lot of gestures, you don't see every single part, and you don't have to worry about it.
It's almost as if you've grouped the two of them into one gesture here.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that, but they're both kind of swinging in the same direction, aren't they?
Yeah.
Away from the crab who's swimming back out to sea. So, and then this is a little sketch I did of them. It was one idea for the cover. It didn't make it to the cover, but I thought it was I liked the gesture, and like him leaning in on one tippy toe, and they're both nervous about what's inside. And they're on the beach, and her hair just kind of blowing. So just simple little things like, and a couple shovels down there, of course, but just a few. And his giant hat is again invading her space. He's just crowding right in to take a peek. So like I said, it didn't get used in the book, but I really like it, and I keep it for inspiration and to remind me of how to just quickly get a little action going. And then this one is for a baby book, and this baby was wiggling his 10 toes. So that's what this.
Those are gestures.
That's right.
Toe gestures.
And babies can wiggle those toes, so that's.
I can almost see them moving in front of my eyes.
And babies have no bones. It seems like they're just like made of rubber, so they can bend in any direction they want. So he just throws his legs right up there. But so even a gesture as simple as just wiggling toes can say a lot. And then he's looking right at him, so he's engaged.
He sure is. Did reference help you with this, or did you come up with, is this from your own?
This is from being a mother.
From mothering memories, yes, okay. It's part of your
Yeah.
Yeah.
People say, I don't have time to draw. I'm so busy taking care of my kids. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's a gold mine. Just remember it.
Store
You
them
don't
up.
have to draw. Exactly. You're just saying, you have a treasure trove.
Oh, that's
And
hilarious.
yeah, when you
That's
start to draw a baby, it just instinctively comes back to you.
you can,
So
mm,
this is another one of a quiet gesture. You know, it's not
yeah.
real loud, but they have the eye contact, and you know, the dad's arms are outstretched here. And again, to make him seem larger, I cropped him on the top, and oops, sorry, and then also on the side here to make him seem even larger and make the baby seem more baby-like even. And the baby, you know, he's smiling. You can't see any lips or anything, but just because the cheek is round and the eye is kind of curved there, and
Yeah.
dad too. So little things like that can say a lot about,
Oh, yeah.
add a lot. So, and they're both kind of reaching towards each other. So that's a emotional connection I was going for in this one. And then this is another one where there's not a whole lot of child, but it's a subtle gesture. And most little toddlers, their clothes are either too big, they haven't quite grown into them yet, or they're too little, but they are always ill-fitting. You know, it's this part. And so there's always like this little shoulder strap falling down, kind of, you know, reminds you of, makes her feel more like a toddler. And the hair that's kind of feathery, you know, so it's still baby-like. And then just a quiet little giggle there. She's laughing at this little kitty who's sneezing. And that was hard because if you look on YouTube, the sneezing cats, usually their mouths are wide open and all those sharp teeth are showing. They look scary. And so I had to come up with the back end of the sneeze, you know, with the chew part, not the ah part. So that took a while. It took a lot of drawings for that simple little sketch.
All right, it doesn't always come right off the cuff like.
Oh, it rarely comes right off.
Rarely comes. Okay, okay.
I mean, I'll draw like you know, I don't know how many pages I did of kittens sneezing in different, and cats and ducks, and I tried everything. So
Okay, okay. Yeah, I have seen your piles of tracing paper sketches on other projects, and it almost feels like you do 50 to 100 sketches before you're down to your one.
Well, I can, like, especially when I'm finding a character.
Yeah.
Tons and tons and tons. And like I said, that's how I get there. It's not how everybody is, but that's just my process. And in that, you know, you think, oh, I got nowhere today, but I used up a whole tracing pad, you know, but
yeah,
next day I'll come to work and do it all. And there may be one or two that I say, well, wait a minute, maybe I can work with that. And then I start from there. So I kind of have to go through that to get to that point. And some of the other sketches, like I say, you know, they're might not be right for that book, but I can use them for something else. So you're never wasting your time. You feel like you're not getting places sometimes, but it's just the process you need to go through. And some days you'll do 3 drawings and they're all just right the first time. So I don't know why that works, but that's another reason you should draw every day, because you never know when it's going to be one of those days.
Yeah.
So, and this is another quiet gesture, but a baby sleeping on stuff, but there's not one, you know, it's a big C curve here, and the legs curve, and the little fat thighs, and so even that is not flat, you know, just laying, but is not flat. There's just all kinds of roundness and curves that help you feel the softness and roundness of how a baby really is. And then this one is from the book with Trudy Ludwig coming out, Quiet Please, Owen McPhee. And it's about a little boy, Owen McPhee, with the red hair here. And he can't stop. He just talks way too much. And this is one time when even Owen McPhee doesn't quite know what to say. So that was fun. And they're in a museum. So I have just a straight horizontal horizon line, you know, because museums are quiet. And if it was at an angle, it'd be more dynamic, you know, but this is in a quiet museum where everything's quiet and formal with this giant gilded frame.
Yeah.
And then this abstract painting. And then these 2 little boys, you know, he's got his arms I wonder. And this one's got his tucked behind his back, and they're just kind of standing there, but
Mm-hmm.
little head cocked in his little curl going like a question mark out here.
It's a gesture.
Yeah, it is. All of that adds to the gesture. How
Yeah.
the scene is set up. And so you can tell they're just studying this big old thing.
Yeah.
So that's, gesture comes in many forms. And then my last little drawing here is because tomorrow's Groundhog Day. So
in keeping with Bill Murray. Yeah.
Exactly. I hadn't thought of that. Good. And then this is from the Did You Hear What I Hear? The little poems for school. It's a little poem about the groundhog seeing a shadow. But his bottom half is not even showing, but this little curve, and he's got these giant claws, but they don't look dangerous because they're just kind of hanging straight down, or
Mm-hmm.
and he's got that silly little grin. So
Yeah.
anyway.
And he's curving. Yeah. Now, did you have groundhog reference for this, Patty, or did
I did, because I didn't know what I knew they had buck teeth, but I couldn't remember what they looked like. So I looked on Google and images and just found a whole bunch of groundhogs and got a feel for how they were colored.
And then did you come up with your own gesture and sort of exaggerate it a little, as if you were?
Oh yeah.
You sort of push things to their max sometimes for the right gesture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My style's whimsical, so I can go there. I don't have to be, totally realistic and say, they don't smile like that, Patty. I know.
Yeah.
My artistic license.
Right. That's your interpretive license. That sure is. You're getting so many comments in here from everybody's just saying how adorable, they're adoring your sketches, and they're loving the sketches. And there are some questions, and Diana's asking about the white space that you use.
Oh.
She's struck by how often you're relying on white backgrounds, and she wants to know what do you white out with? How do you and then how do the edges of your figures get so softly transparent in a gradation? Often seems like they're sort of fading around the edges, fading out.
Yeah. I just start on this, like on this one here, I just started on white. So it just was a white background, and
okay.
Like if I have my rough sketch in the back, if I want to get rid of that, I just hide that layer and do the rest in pencil. So like on his teeth here, I'm sure I added white, on the top
just
here.
Painted white in there. Okay.
Yeah, some of his fur, but in the background, no, that was just a white page.
You draw first and then you start coloring in, and do you have a pre-plan as far as how you're going to bring colors in and what colors you're going to use?
Well, that's kind of different for every book. A lot of the times for school, they like the bright colors, and so these illustrations for this book were pretty bright. And then for the baby books, I just went with what I thought would work for each baby, and like this was a quiet page, and then the little girl with the sneeze, that was a little outdoors and more fun, so I used deeper, richer colors there. And then the Hello Goodbye Dog, that was another school book, so and it was a very active, book where the dog is causing all kinds of troubles. Bright colors. And then and then for like this one, I like Oh Clothes. This has more muted colors because I wanted it to have a worn feeling, like worn clothes. So,
can you give us a little demo? Just paint a little swatch of color on the screen. I think there were some questions about that.
okay.
Just how you paint in Corral, and I don't mean to make you have to work extra hard for us, but you are working extra hard for us already, so we might as well just.
This is a treat for me. Okay, so this, like, just add some color to this?
Yeah, just kind of how you would go from here with the color. You've already used
okay.
a black digital pen to put the gray washes in there.
Yeah, this is just for a sketch. So then when I add color, I would, I wouldn't use those.
You're taking that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just add a new layer.
You sort of figured out what's going to be dark, light, and mid-tone, though, ahead of time.
I can do it different ways.
Different ways, okay.
So this is like an oil pastel. So I'll put it on there, just that color. And then let's say, alrighty, I don't want it quite that bright, so I might, soften it a little bit in the opacity. And then, or I could just change it to white and, take some of that out. And then there's a blender tool, which you can just kind of blend, soften if you don't want it too mucky.
Mm-hmm.
All that kind of stuff. And then if I want to erase, I grab the eraser tool. Maybe this will help Diane. That's one way to get
erase it right out. Okay.
You can just do that. So
does that give you guys an idea of what it's like? It's just very much like painting with real materials, except that wonderful eraser tool.
Exactly. And the undo button. I don't know what I'd do without those. So
undo. Yeah, we don't have that on canvas and watercolor.
And I've tried that before when I'm sketching. I'll hit my drawing board like, wait a minute, where's my button?
You bring in some things. Have you ever painted some things in watercolor and brought them in and painted over them with your digital tools?
Absolutely. I do that a lot. And so let me show you this one again. Like here, I've used watercolor in the backgrounds here, and I'll paint on canvas and then scan that in, and maybe you can see if I make this really big, there's a little texture in her jeans here. I paint on a canvas and bring that in.
That's the canvas texture.
Yeah. So I'll use that, and I'll use bits of paper a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like this right back here in the store window. This is like a construction kind of paper or craft paper. I'll put that on a layer and just, play with the opacity and erase it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But and like I said, these threads. So it's mixed media is how I do a lot of this. I just have to,
Yeah, you have your own unique way of collaging with different textures and in your layers, and it's just a way that you come up with it yourself. Yeah. And it's really led to a very unique individual style of yours.
Well, thank you. And it's just playing, like I was saying, the solutions come in the work. I'd never incorporated thread or anything into work before, so I learned how to do that, and then I learned a lot more about, layering and textures just for this book, because that's what I thought it required. So, each book has its own little set of problems. Like, let's see, the baby diaper here. You can't really tell some of these, but this guy's diaper. And here I tried to make it like a felt type of feeling.
Soft and fuzzy.
I scanned in a piece of felt.
That texture is one of the important design elements, and taking it to the nth degree here it has an effect on us, and we don't even know why. But
and so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's worth a try. I'm always
worth a try.
Yeah, you don't try, you'll never know. So it takes time. It's just my process. But I like that. I like discovering things, and I kind of set a goal for myself every time I get a new book. I think, well, how can I stretch now? What would this book? How can I learn something from this book that I haven't done before?
Okay, you push yourself.
Yeah, and each book is so different that it's really fun to do that with. So,
do you have favorite tips that would give us what makes drawing children a little different than drawing adult figures?
Well, I don't know if it's any different because, like even drawing the groundhog, I follow the same rules as when I'm drawing babies. Or I guess the main thing is what are you trying to show? What if you're drawing a baby? What is this baby doing? What do you want the baby to show? Like this one, I wanted the baby to look like he was kind of proud of himself for crawling and wanting to, couldn't wait to make it over to his dad here. So that's how I approach drawing. I draw from the heart, and I try to get out of my way. And I don't think about, the technique of it. I just try to, what's the point I'm trying to make and what am I trying to communicate? I started from that angle.
Yeah. Nancy is asking, do you use a Wacom Cintiq for your Corel painter?
I just use an Intuos tablet.
Okay. Nancy's asking, how did you start your career as an illustrator? Did you get an agent first, or did you submit postcards? Do you want to talk about that a little bit as we're pulling up the...
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Diane is asking, please show the rake. What group of brushes is it in? Impasto?
Let me look back again.
I'm sorry. Yeah, send you back, but... I know Diane looked all over the web for a rake tool and couldn't find one.
It's in the pens. Just look under the pens folder.
Okay.
It's called a scratchboard rake. Right.
Great. Virginia says she loves all this mixed media that you use. Amanda's asking, how do you get the detail into the features people? And you've been telling us a little of that. And Diane says facial features appear to be part of the, let's see, I lost it. Facial features appear to be part of the original sketch. And I know facial features and expressions are very important to you in your sketching, Patty. But do you consciously incorporate the facial expression with a figure's gesture?
Mark, I accidentally clocked out there for me. Sorry.
Oh, I took a nap from no.
But I was looking for the page with all the
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna put up the folder link. Would that help? Patty, do you have the chat window open in our little control room? And I just put that link up there. You can click it right there in our control room. We have our own little chat box.
Okay. There it is.
It's got the folder link. Okay.
I see it. Okay. Am I in screen share?
Not yet. What I was asking earlier was Diane's question. The facial expressions those are part of your sketches. She was observing that you seem to incorporate the facial features and the expressions in your gestural sketches in your sketchbook, and
yes,
and you think about the expression as part of the gesture. That's how you think about it.
Oh yeah. Because your eyes say a whole lot, where your eyes are looking and if they're happy or sad, and your mouth and all of that. I think the whole body, your face, your everything is a part of it. So
part of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I do put the face in there. Do you see what I have here? Can you see my screen with the?
I'm not seeing it. Let me put it up and see. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. There it is. Now I'm seeing it. Are you guys seeing Patty's shared screen now? Type a Y in to let us know, because we've gone through whole segments of presentations and we've been seeing what each other is seeing, but the viewers haven't been seeing it. So let's make sure you guys are seeing it. Yeah. Yes. Okay, we're good.
Everybody just did such a great job. Just thanks so much for joining in and playing along, because I think you just did wonderful.
Oh, thanks, Patty. Just a reminder, guys, I told Patty that we'll only look at up to 10 pictures of in the folder, and I've been trying to make that clear to everybody in case you're not familiar with the format of these critique sessions. And that's just to be fair. Otherwise, we would be here, till 10 in the evening looking at everything. Patty has been looking at the pictures way ahead of time, and she's picked out the pictures that sort of address what she's been talking about, or maybe illustrate a point she wants to make in her lesson to us. Don't despair if she doesn't pick your work today, your piece. We're going to have a catch-up session at the end of the series where you get a chance to bring back anything that you really need to have looked at, and we'll just all look at it together later. But right now we're just picking the brains of our instructors about what they feel is important and what they want to draw our attention to, so that we can use those insights to keep making our own work better. And I think most of you understand that, but just let me just say that before Patty goes into her selections with you.
And I'm going to try to go fast, because there's just so many. I just love so many of these, and there's so many great lessons in here that I want to try to do as many as I can. So don't hold me to 10, okay, Mark?
I won't, but we want to be kind to our instructors. Although we'd keep you here till midnight, Patty, if we had our way.
I'd stay. I like it.
And you would stay, but it would not be good for you.
Okay. So this one I thought was just perfect example of a really fun gesture. See, there's only one leg showing, but the other one is tucked right in here, and you don't see any face, even though gesture can be, face can be important, but where his face is. This is totally engrossed in his work right here, and hands it just looks so comfortable, and just like he's just engrossed in the little job. So I thought that was a really fun example there. you
Great.
start with just to say that's lovely. And let's see. And this one was another just made me smile the minute I saw it. Just look how eager this little guy is, just sitting, just so looking, just so proud of himself. And the paintbrush and the tail are just both red, and little sly smile. But it's very simple, but it's just really captures the moment. I think she did a beautiful job there. And let's see. And this one too, this Donna A on the swing, I thought this was beautiful. You have a nice dynamic here with the branch, and then the swing is going this way, and then her head is thrown back and her feet are tucked under. You can tell she's getting ready to just really, she's really going for it. She's enjoying the swinging, and her arms are straight out. So I think that's really captured the gesture there with the swinging. I think that's a beautiful job. Alrighty, and now this one I wanted to make sure I show, because this is something, there's a lot of great things happening here, and then there's one thing that I have caught myself doing so many times, and this is one reason why it's good to, if you're doing a pose, sometimes stand up and put yourself in that pose. If the pose looks a little funny, say, well, I wonder if I can really do that. And the thing that's a little bit off here is this. The right leg is forward and the right arm is forward. And actually your limbs go opposite. So if you try to stand this way, especially with her leaning forward, she'd tip right over. You can't do that.
And you'd know that if you tried the pose yourself first, huh?
Exactly. And I mean, I've done this so many times. I'll have a little child running and this leg will be forward and the arm will be forward. I say, that just doesn't look right. And then I'll assume it and go, oh, I did it again, you know? So it's an easy thing to do, but something you can easily watch for. And just, it's another way of making sure you're capturing the gesture. Just try the pose yourself and see how it works. But I think this is a really great gesture drawing. I think it's very funny too. But I mean, you can tell this guy is just really scared watching something frightening on TV. His eyes are big and he's on a tight little ball here. So you've captured that beautifully. And you could even, tuck his knees up under his chin even more if you wanted to exaggerate it more. But you capture that. And I see that you're going for like a tippy toe, sneaking up behind.
Yeah.
When her little pigtails like little horns, like she's doing a little devilish. A very great concept and a good job. Just be careful of the limbs going that way. Mm. And then there's just so many. Okay. I wrote down some so I can remember. Oh, this one here. I think that's just adorable. And I want those boots. But she just, look how proud. No straight line, just this big curve here, pushing out the chest and kicking those boots up. And the boots even have attitude. Look at that toe.
They do. They have weight too. I feel the weight of those boots, sort of.
Yes. Yeah. And then the rug at this angle and the horizon line, that gives a dynamic to it. And and then this little guy, his little feet pointed in. He's just like, oh, yeah. And he just looks. There's one thing I think I might think about next time you do this is this arm seems a little bit low. You could
where it attaches to his trunk. Yeah.
Shoulder could be a little higher, and then it might stick out too. And that might, you could see his concern a little more if his arm is up here and you have that little white space elbow. So if you just lifted that arm up and put it up here a little bit, I think that would make his pose even a little more dynamic.
Okay.
Really great gesture all around. And then it has a nice, it just creates a real nice composition. It keeps your eye just going from the boots to the, and then this little purse here keeps your points and back. So, and I just love that little smug little happy look. Just really nice job. And this one I thought was very classical, kind of like a Christopher Robin, is beautiful. I'd like to know what this child is looking at over here. And so that's something you can add to make it even sweeter. But his little feet, you know, both legs going in different directions, and you know, kind of curled up, and I just think that's a very, very nice job. And I like the line is nice and delicate, and it just really goes with that pose really well. I think she captured it. And this I have some questions about. I think it's very dynamic, and I mean, a lot of action. And the one thing, I don't know what this is.
Well, Virginia's working on, she harvests chestnuts.
Oh,
And this is one of her chestnut characters. And so she's putting gesture into her child chestnut story character.
it has a lot of gesture. It does. And
Yeah.
really, really a lot of movement. I think maybe, I know chestnuts don't have faces.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see what the front and the back is.
Like, she's been trying to figure that. We've been trying to work through that. It's
because he could be either this. Yeah, so keep going. You've definitely got the gesture, but I think you need to be a little more specific on if this is the back of the chestnut or the front. And
okay,
you know, so
okay, because it's not clear to you at this first cold read that he's front facing. It's right. Not okay.
And the way the hands are cupped, that seems like it's the back. The top here is the back of the hand.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
This could be his rear, but just maybe try to think of a way to.
Good point.
From the back, and then you would have. Then you would. I mean, you know, the skateboard's going this way, but I'm not sure about. So I think you'd be more one with the skateboard if you could differentiate the front and back. But those are really fun to look at. All these chestnut ones.
Gesturally, they worked for you.
Oh, absolutely. I think they could. I think they'd work better if you could, you know, just keep going in that direction, and find a way to differentiate the front and the back and the sides. Because I think.
Okay. Good.
Let's see. This is delightful too. And I know without even looking at the TV that they're just happy they get to stay home, and somebody's not happy that he's got to go out in the cold.
Says it all, doesn't it?
And this captured the gesture. You know, his feet aren't even on the ground. He's jumping and his belly hanging out, so the shirt's up, and you know, it's very natural. Just, you know, she's bending backwards that way, and he's not, you know, straight up and down. And then he's all slumped over too, and look at how forlorn, you know, he's not out to go build snowmans, that's for sure.
No, he's going to work or something like that.
He doesn't want to go, yeah.
Shovel the walk, yeah.
So that's a very nice job there. And I really enjoyed this one too. You know, it's a nice little circle here, and you know, even the duck, the goose, the duck is even has a lot of character in his face and smile, and her little hands up here, and she's got her arm around her shoulder, because that's one thing I think we need to remember too when we're drawing children. When I was talking about how they're always touching. Children are always, if there's several of them, at least two of them are going to be bumping into each other, or arm around a shoulder or something. You know?
Yeah, they have this way of falling into each other, it seems like. And, yeah.
They do. So
to the great dismay of their teachers often, but
he's doing a sweet little job of, you know, you can tell he just picked up the little duck, and is sharing it. So, and a little horizon line in here, a little shadow underneath them would be the only thing I'd suggest.
Okay.
But that's a very nice job.
Great.
Oh, and this is something else too. I wanted to show. This is another nice job. She captured this little girl who's an artist, but there's a way where you can draw her where you don't have to put it on her shirt, that the drawing can let you know immediately that she's an artist. And that, I think, if she was engaged and like look, you know, maybe her brush digging in the palette and she's looking at that, or maybe she's looking at her canvas and putting some marks on that. And so she, in doing the activity of being an artist, I think then you wouldn't need the words.
A gesture could have shown it to us.
Yeah. And I think, you know, and maybe that's a cute apron, and maybe she has an apron that says I'm an artist, but I'm just saying that I think it would have been stronger if she showed doing that. But as far as the proportion and everything, it's really nice. And, but I think it would be, you could push it further by having her engage with her materials.
Okay, show, don't tell.
Yeah, yeah, and looking, you know, her eyes could be making contact with the canvas or the palette to push it even farther. These two, this one and its little companion, I just had to giggle. This is so sweet. This little dog, like, just snapping away, you know, and one eye open. I mean, that's one little paw out. And this little curious Muppet here, just
little doll character, yeah.
It's just, you know, that's really a great gesture. Captured it. And
okay.
A companion here. Oh, okay, I'll play. And it's this, you know, wagging her tail and smiling. Yikes! You know, and
yeah.
I love how she's running, both arms forward, so you can tell she's trying to get as far away as fast as she can. And then her hair blowing back, both little pigtails, and off the ground, nothing touching. That's she's there. So. And her eyes are big and round, and you know they have that eye contact, and so I just think that was a really, really good job. And you guys are just hitting it out of the park. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And here's a cheer for you.
Yeah. All right, we'll take that in the spirit in which it's offered. Yeah.
And this is really sweet too. I mean,
yeah.
Each one, you know, her little pom-pom is going all different directions. Her little, I like how her mouth is way up in the air and her eyes way at the top, so you can tell she's thrown her head back. Her little feet are going this way, and the ground is down here. She's jumping. Even her tail's getting in the action. So,
yeah,
very nice job. All three of these these mice are really good. Oh, this one is awesome. Really, you know, it's just captured. It's just like sad and a little scary, and it just kind of pulls at your heart. And I don't know anything about it, but it's just making me feel all those things, you know. So just a beautiful job. And throwing the head back, you know, and then it just tells so much.
Yeah, the plant has gesture, and he has gesture, and the other plants, everything.
Yes, it's just really beautiful. The little hearts floating away, and I want to see the next page.
Okay, makes you want to turn the page. That's good.
Yeah, it's a very good story, and beautiful gesture. Let's see. And if anybody has any questions, we can go back. I know I'm kind of flying through these, but they're just
that's great. Chris Schechner's here with us, Patty.
Hi.
And so he and Virginia were talking.
Here's a nice page of gestures. Very good studies. Very well thought, developed character here, you know, and sides and 3/4 view. I really like seeing that. It's people kind of try to avoid it, but it happens more in life than any other. You know, you're rarely just facing somebody head on, and you're rarely just seeing their profile. It's usually 3/4. And also what I like about 3/4 is they're engaging with other characters on the book, but they're also, it leaves you, the people who are reading the book, it gives them a place to enter. It kind of is like inviting you into the circle.
Yeah, you can be part of the group without being confronted that way. That's interesting.
It invites the reader to just join in the scene.
To join in the scene. These are like little model sheets that the illustrator can start to get to know his character this way, and then he's got these wonderful references showing the proportions and all the different. So
that is good, and that's something that I do too. When I find the character for a book that I'm working on, my best, you know, the one that I think captures them the best, I put that on my drawing table and I tape it to the corner. And every time I draw that character, I look at that. So that helps you kind of keep the sameness.
Once you start zeroing in on who your character is going to be visually, you can just start systematizing the proportions of all his little sections. Yeah.
By the end of the book, you can draw them without looking at anything else. This is really sweet too. You know, rays and then the bottom legs splayed out, the tail, and the little face looking up. The eyes are way back here, and the nose is up in the air. You really capture that. This is just a lovely page of gestures. Lovely work. And this one I thought was the Mimi's Magic Slipper. It's like, that's, I want to turn the page on that one too. Where is this child going? And Mimi, come home. Be careful out there. At the same time, I want to be with Mimi, That's a really love to have the fingers spread out like, yikes, and so I think in the floating aspect. One thing that I think could push it a little further is if the legs weren't together, especially if it's about the magic slippers, if they weren't touching so much, if this, this leg was out down a little bit, or maybe this one kicked up a little more and the foot out here.
Why do you say that? Just to lend more animation to the scene, or what is your thinking there?
Well, to add a little more animation, and then if the slippers are what this is about,
it showcases them a little more.
Yeah, you showcase them a little more. Here that kind of comes one big blob. And I think that if this one just kind of poked out a little bit, then you could see that, they're
okay,
easier. It would read a little easier, and like how the arms are, and it just reads so beautifully. I think you could do that with the legs too. But that's a you've really got a nice little. I can really feel the floating. You really capture that, and I love how the little lines on the gown even kind of mimic that. Same little float. So, and I like the little hint of the window here. It's like, that's where he was. And then also that helps with the floating, just the treetop and then the point of the roof. So it gives it like she's not just jumping, she's actually flying up there. So
those three picture elements create a story for us.
Yeah, so that's a really beautiful job. It's a nice composition.
Yeah.
Good work.
Diane's got a question for you. When doing a character sheet or a study, are there some poses you should be sure to include? Okay, so if you were getting to know a character.
Okay, let's go back to that little sheet we were just looking at, because I think he did a nice job of I think, front is important. I think the 3/4 is vital, and then this is nice. And I think that's great. Right there. I think those are the three, and from there you can go anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. And the more you have, the better. And another thing I do too is, like, after I've gotten to know the character like this, then I'll go back to the manuscript and see what kind of positions I might need to be putting the character in, and I might try some gestures to find just the right position for that, and then you can add that to your character sheet. But yeah,
it's cumulative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna, and the picture book's 32 pages, and this is something else. You really want to love that book, because you're going to be spending a lot of time thinking about it, and it's going to take up your life. And if you're not just in love with it, you're not going to give it your best work, and maybe you weren't the right illustrator for the job. And so really love the manuscript before you dive in, and then you'll find out that when you're done, instead of being tired of it, you're going to love it even more.
Great advice.
Let's see. Okay, this, because I just love basketball, and it's basketball season. And what makes me think about that is he's straight up. And normally in basketball, in his defensive position, you have to be straight up. If he was leaning, it would be a foul. So here is one occasion when you may be straight up and down, and it's right. And he's on his tippy toes. And but this guy here, he could be leaning, and he's too straight to be the one trying to shoot the basket. So I'd change him to be leaning. And also, both of them can have their feet totally off the ground, because those fellas know how to jump. They can jump. And so also, I think one thing that might help this guy is, we were talking about the 3/4, and he's like facing us, and he's supposed to have, he should have his eyes on the ball.
He needs to be angled to the ball, to the other player, at least halfway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a little bit, and I think that would make more of a connection too. If he was looking at the ball, it would be more of a story. This looks like maybe his coach is hollering at him from the sidelines, and he gets distracted.
Yeah, it behooves us then to really know how to draw our characters from the 3/4 point of view, because otherwise you're going to have these stiff
Yeah, you know, where people are fluid, so need to not just the front and the side. I thought this was a really fun work too, and pillow sled. Now that looks like fun. I think it's just a really great job, and it's hard to do when it's, you know, front on like that. But you did a nice job of it. I think if you wanted to go a little further and push it, you could make the legs sticking up a little bit. I know it's as the pillow higher and his head a little down, a little more like he's leaning back more. But anyway,
make it slightly wilder.
Yeah, slightly wilder.
The way a kid would do. Nice watercolor work on this sketch too.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful, and I mean that's a really great face. You know, you capture the joy and how much fun he's having, and the painting is beautiful. So another good job. How am I doing? You're
doing great, and everybody is just appreciating you and commenting on your comments.
This one is really fun too, kind of like my Crisco on the wall. Look
at that hair flying.
It's just like the art, and I like how calmly the animals are just, well, okay, if this is what we're doing today.
They're contemplating the art, being made.
I'm sure they follow her around all day. One thing, everything is so. Like her arm is straight out and she's standing really tall, like she's really intense about it. And that's great. But then this arm is kind of relaxed and bent. And that's the only, well, the animals are kind of relaxed, but I'm wondering if maybe if this arm should be a little more dynamic to fit with the strokes.
Because the strokes are so, extreme. She looks like she's looking straight at the wall in front of her face rather than at her own brush strokes, looking up at them.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the head could be tilted back a little farther, and then this arm a little more engaged in as dynamic as the rest of it. But that's a very fun idea.
It really is, and the fact that she's in line, but her artwork is in bold color, so that's really a fun.
It is
graphic statement.
I agree, and then her hair as wild as the art.
Exactly.
I think that's a really, and then the color of the. Her painting, and then she's black and white. I think all of that is just very dynamic and very fun.
Yeah. The comments have been going full tilt the whole time you've been talking. This has been a wonderful lesson on gesture from a master of gesture drawing. Diane Joyce was commenting how she had gone out and bought something like 20 of your books for family and friends in anticipation of today's workshop.
Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart, Diane.
The group has also been complimenting each other and making very supportive comments about each other's work. And Kathy says, great advice, loved it.
I have one YouTube link for some art on gesture. It's free.
Great.
And it's Proko, Proko.
Oh, he's wonderful. Yeah, wonderful teacher of anatomy. Proko's YouTube channel. Many of you are probably already familiar with him.
Yeah, he has lots of advice on gesture too. So.
Okay, great. Anything else? You doing any book signings in the Texas area?
Lady Wildflower Center a couple weeks ago. That was fun. Working on a picture book behind me right now, and waiting for approval on the sketches, and then I'll move on to coloring them.
You're just monitoring the flow of your pages, page turns, and things like that.
Yep, so I can always see exactly where I am, and I also, when I have changes, I tape them right on top of the other one. Now, you can't talk about this book, you guys, because it's secret so far.
Oh, okay, we pretend we never saw this behind your head during the video.
What's on the wall stays on the wall right here.
As you're speaking to fellow professionals here, so we all understand that. Patty, this has been just great, and the group has just been so animated in their comments, and they've taken away so much from you. Those who didn't know who you were before know about you now, and you've got a whole bunch of new fans. They're just saying, oh, love the wall. They're saying, love the storyboard. Yeah, but don't tell anybody. Great advice, loved it. This has been a real treat. It's been an afternoon with a master, one of the best illustrators working in the country right now, in the world, really, in my opinion.
It was a real treat for me too. It was just delightful. tell you, class, they're just doing great, and they have a great teacher.
They had a great assignment from you. So we'll see you guys next February 28th with Tracy, and we'll say goodbye. We'll end the broadcast. The video will be up. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.